Throughout history, humanity has told stories of incredible beasts, creatures that defy explanation, roaming the edges of our world, hidden in the depths of the ocean, soaring through the skies, or lurking in the darkest forests. Some were seen as protectors, others as harbingers of doom. Whether passed down through folklore, carved into ancient stone, or whispered in hushed tones around a fire, these creatures have shaped legends across cultures and time. Are they merely myths, born from the imaginations of our ancestors? Or do they hold a kernel of truth, inspired by encounters with the unknown? Join us as we explore the mysterious and fascinating world of mythical creatures, their origins, their stories, and the role they played in shaping human belief. Now, let's begin our journey into the realm of legends. Dragons are among the most enduring and powerful creatures in mythology, spanning countless cultures and time periods. These mighty beasts, often depicted as colossal, reptilian beings with wings, fiery breath, and ancient wisdom, have fascinated humanity for millennia. Some legends portray them as hoarders of treasure, fiercely guarding their riches in deep caves or atop mountains. Others describe them as gods, rulers, or even the embodiments of natural forces, representing both chaos and creation. The origins of dragon mythology are unclear, but some scholars believe that ancient people may have uncovered dinosaur fossils and, lacking a scientific explanation, created legends of enormous lizard-like monsters. Others theorize that the myth was inspired by encounters with large reptiles like crocodiles or monitor lizards, whose fearsome appearance could easily be exaggerated into something even more terrifying. One of the most fascinating aspects of dragon mythology is the contrast between Western and Eastern interpretations of these creatures. In Western mythology, dragons are often evil, destructive beings that must be slain by a hero. They are usually depicted as fire-breathing beasts, with massive wings and sharp claws, often guarding vast hoards of gold and jewels. Many Western dragon stories center around a brave warrior proving their strength by defeating a dragon in battle, such as Saint George and the Dragon, where a Christian knight slays a monstrous serpent that terrorizes a kingdom. In Norse and Germanic mythology, Fafnir, a greedy dwarf-turned-dragon, hoards a cursed treasure until he is slain by the hero Sigurd. In contrast, Eastern dragons, especially those from China, Japan, and Korea, are revered as wise, benevolent beings that symbolize power, good fortune, and harmony with nature. These dragons are serpent-like, often depicted with flowing whiskers, antlers, and long, winding bodies. Unlike their Western counterparts, they do not have wings, yet they are still capable of flight, moving through the skies like celestial deities. In Chinese culture, dragons were believed to control rain, rivers, and seas, ensuring balance in the natural world. The dragon kings of Chinese mythology ruled over the oceans, each residing in a magnificent underwater palace and controlling the tides. Dragons appear in countless cultures across the world, each with its own interpretation of their nature and role in society. Mesopotamian dragons. Some of the earliest dragon myths come from Mesopotamia, where creatures like Tiamat, a massive serpent-like being, were depicted as chaotic and destructive forces. In Babylonian mythology, the hero Marduk slays Tiamat, splitting her body to create the sky and earth, a theme seen in later myths worldwide. Greek dragons. In ancient Greece, dragons were often depicted as monstrous guardians of sacred places or treasures. The Hydra, a multi-headed serpent slain by Heracles, was a terrifying beast capable of regrowing its heads when severed. The dragon Ladin guarded the golden apples in the Garden of the Hesperides, making it one of many dragons that served as protectors of legendary riches. Slavic dragons. In Slavic mythology, dragons were either benevolent or destructive, depending on the region. Some stories describe them as 3- or even 9-headed creatures that grow stronger after each battle, while others depict them as powerful beings that control the forces of nature. Mayan and Aztec dragons. In Mesoamerican cultures, dragons took the form of feathered serpents, the most famous being Quetzalcoatl, the Aztec god of wind, learning, and civilization. Unlike European dragons, these beings were seen as divine and benevolent, associated with wisdom and the cosmos. Throughout history, dragons have symbolized a wide range of concepts. In Europe, they were seen as representations of chaos, greed, and destruction, often embodying the forces that heroes needed to overcome. In Asia, they were seen as symbols of wisdom, prosperity, and balance, deeply connected to nature and the divine. Even today, dragons appear in national symbols, such as the dragon on the Welsh flag, a relic of ancient Celtic and Norse influences. Dragons have also played a role in alchemy and mysticism, often representing transformation and the unknown. In medieval times, maps were sometimes marked with the phrase "Here be dragons," warning travelers of unexplored and dangerous territories, reinforcing the idea that dragons occupied the edges of the known world. Dragons remain incredibly popular in modern culture, appearing in literature, films, and games. From Smaug in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, to Daenerys Targaryen's dragons in Game of Thrones, to the friendly dragon Forka in The Never-Ending Story, these creatures continue to capture our imaginations. In video games like The Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, dragons play a central role as powerful, ancient beings that players must battle or befriend. Even today, in Chinese New Year celebrations, dragon dances are performed to bring prosperity and ward off evil spirits. Are dragons real? Despite being mythical, the idea of dragons has persisted for so long that some have speculated whether they could be based on real animals. Some theories suggest that dragon myths were inspired by discoveries of dinosaur fossils, such as the remains of Tyrannosaurus rex or pterosaurs, leading ancient people to believe that enormous, reptilian creatures once roamed the earth. Others think dragons may have been based on exaggerated reports of real animals, such as crocodiles, giant snakes, or Komodo dragons. Even though dragons may not exist in the way myths describe them, their legacy is undeniable. They have influenced cultures, shaped legends, and inspired countless works of art and storytelling. From ancient civilizations to modern fantasy, dragons continue to soar across the pages of history, forever capturing the imaginations of those who dare to dream of fire, flight, and power. The mermaid is one of the most enchanting and mysterious creatures in mythology, a being that exists between two worlds, the vast, uncharted depths of the ocean and the lands of humankind. Often depicted as half-human, half-fish, mermaids have fascinated people for centuries, appearing in myths and legends across Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Some stories portray mermaids as benevolent spirits of the sea, guiding sailors and offering blessings. Others depict them as dangerous and deceptive beings, luring men to their doom with hypnotic songs. But are mermaids simply a product of imagination, or do they have roots in real-life encounters and ancient folklore? Let's explore the origins, legends, and enduring fascination with mermaids. The idea of human-like beings living in the sea is incredibly ancient, with some of the earliest mermaid-like figures appearing in Mesopotamian and Greek mythology over 3,000 years ago. Ancient Mesopotamia, 2000 BCE. One of the earliest mermaid-like figures is Atargatis, a Syrian goddess of fertility and water. According to legend, she transformed herself into a half-fish, half-woman after accidentally killing her mortal lover. Greek mythology, 800 BCE. The Greeks believed in water nymphs and sirens, some of whom were depicted as beautiful sea-dwelling women who could influence sailors and control the waves. The Roman god Neptune, the Roman equivalent of Poseidon, Neptune was sometimes depicted surrounded by mermaid-like nymphs known as nereids, graceful sea spirits with fish tails. Mermaids also appear in Asian, African, and Native American cultures, proving that the concept of half-human, half-fish beings is a near-universal myth. Mermaids versus sirens. What's the difference? Although mermaids and sirens are often confused, they have very different origins. Mermaids, traditionally depicted as beautiful, fish-tailed women with mystical abilities, mermaids were often seen as either benevolent or neutral beings. They could aid sailors, predict storms, or even grant wishes in some legends. Sirens. In Greek mythology, sirens were originally bird women who lived on rocky islands and lured sailors to their deaths with enchanting songs. Over time, they were merged with mermaids in later European folklore, leading to the idea of dangerous, singing mermaids who lead ships astray. Mermaids in different cultures. Mermaids appear in legends across the world, each culture adding its own unique twist to the myth. 1. The Greek and Roman Nereids. The Nereids were sea nymphs who lived in the Mediterranean, often depicted as beautiful maidens with long flowing hair and shimmering tails. Unlike the deadly sirens, Nereids were usually helpful to sailors, offering guidance and protecting them from storms. 2. The Slavic Rusalka. In Slavic mythology, The rusalka was a water spirit, often the ghost of a drowned woman. Rusalki were sometimes benevolent, but in many stories, they were vengeful, dragging men underwater. 3. The African Mamiwata. In West and Central African folklore, Mamiwata is a powerful water spirit often depicted as a mermaid-like being with mystical abilities. She is associated with wealth, beauty, and fertility, but also destruction and mischief if disrespected. 4. The Celtic Selkies. The Selkies of Scottish and Irish folklore were not mermaids but seal folk who could shed their skins and take human form. Stories often tell of humans who steal a Selkie's skin, forcing them to remain on land as wives or husbands until they find their way back to the sea. 5. The Japanese Ninjo. The ninjo is a fish-like creature from Japanese folklore, described as more monstrous than beautiful. Unlike Western mermaids, the ninjo was believed to bring good fortune if caught, but its capture would also bring terrible storms or misfortune. Are mermaids real? Scientific theories and hoaxes. Though mermaids are considered mythical, some historians believe that early sailors may have mistaken real animals for mermaids, leading to the legends we know today. Manatee and dugong sightings. Sailors, especially those on long voyages, may have mistaken manatees or dugongs for mermaids. These marine mammals have humanoid features, including rounded faces, breasts, and the ability to rise partially out of the water. Christopher Columbus sighting, 1493. Columbus claimed to have seen 3 mermaids near the Caribbean, but he described them as not as beautiful as they are painted. Historians believe he actually saw manatees. P. T. Barnum's Fiji mermaid hoax, 1842. Showman P. T. Barnum displayed a so-called real mermaid skeleton in the 19th century. It was later revealed to be a monkey torso sewn onto a fish's tail, but it fascinated the public. Despite centuries of exploration and oceanic research, no concrete evidence of mermaids has ever been found. However, the vastness of the unexplored ocean continues to fuel speculation that unknown creatures may still lurk beneath the waves. Mermaids remain one of the most beloved mythical creatures, appearing in literature, films, and fairy tales worldwide. The Little Mermaid, 1837 and 1989. The original Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale tells the tragic story of a mermaid who sacrifices her voice and happiness for love. Disney's 1989 animated version turned it into a more light-hearted and romanticized version, making Ariel one of the most famous mermaids ever. Pirates of the Caribbean, On Stranger Tides, 2011. This film introduced a darker version of mermaids, depicting them as deadly, vampiric creatures that lured sailors to their doom. Harry Potter series, 1997 to 2007. The merpeople in Harry Potter are not beautiful, but eerie and monstrous, living in underwater cities and speaking a strange language. H2O, Just Add Water, 2006 to 2010. A modern, teenage-friendly take on mermaids, where 3 girls gain mermaid powers after swimming in a magical lagoon. The Shape of Water, 2017. A romantic take on the mermaid myth, featuring a mysterious aquatic humanoid that forms a bond with a lonely woman. Final thoughts: the lasting mystery of mermaids. The mermaid myth has persisted for thousands of years, evolving from ancient sea deities to modern fantasy icons. While science dismisses them as folklore, the allure of the mermaid, beautiful, mysterious, and untamed, continues to captivate the human imagination. Could they be ancient memories of unknown sea creatures? Or are they simply symbols of the ocean's vast mystery, forever out of reach? Whatever the truth, mermaids remain one of the most fascinating and beloved mythical beings, proving that some legends never truly sink beneath the waves. The kraken is one of the most terrifying creatures in maritime mythology, a colossal sea monster said to dwell in the depths of the ocean, capable of dragging entire ships beneath the waves. Descriptions of the kraken vary, but most depict it as an enormous, tentacled beast, resembling a giant squid or octopus, lurking in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic. Stories of its massive size, incredible strength, and mysterious appearances have been passed down through generations, striking fear into the hearts of sailors. Is the kraken merely a sailor's tall tale, or could there be some truth behind the myth? Let's dive into the legend of this monstrous creature and explore its origins, cultural impact, and possible real-world inspirations. The Kraken is most commonly associated with Scandinavian folklore, particularly Norwegian and Icelandic legends. The earliest written accounts of the Kraken date back to the 18th century, with references appearing in the works of Erik Pontoppidan, a Danish-Norwegian bishop and author. In his 1752 book, The Natural History of Norway, Pontoppidan described the Kraken as a gigantic sea creature, so large that it was sometimes mistaken for an island. He claimed that it could rise from the depths, creating massive whirlpools capable of swallowing entire ships. However, stories of enormous sea monsters existed long before Pontoppidan's accounts. Ancient sailors from various cultures told tales of massive tentacled creatures attacking ships, often pulling them into the abyss. The Kraken legend may have evolved from these older myths, merging with Norse seafaring traditions and the dangers of the deep. Although the Kraken itself is not explicitly mentioned in Old Norse texts, Norse mythology contains references to huge sea serpents and monstrous ocean-dwelling creatures. The most famous of these is Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, an enormous snake that encircles the entire world. According to legend, Jormungandr is so large that it can grasp its own tail, waiting beneath the sea for the day of Ragnarok, when it will rise and fight Thor in a final, cataclysmic battle. Another possible connection to the Kraken myth is Hafgufa, a mysterious sea creature mentioned in medieval Icelandic texts such as the Konungs Skuggsjá, King's Mirror, written in the 13th century. Hafgufa was described as a giant sea monster so immense that sailors sometimes mistook its back for an island. This aligns closely with later descriptions of the Kraken. Depictions of the Kraken. Throughout history, the Kraken has been depicted in various terrifying ways. Some describe it as having long, slimy tentacles, capable of wrapping around ships and crushing them like paper. Others portray it as having a gaping, toothed maw that swallows sailors whole. Some versions of the legend claim that the Kraken creates powerful whirlpools when it descends, dragging ships into the depths. In some stories, the Kraken does not intentionally attack ships but is simply so large that its movements disrupt the ocean. When it rises from the depths, its back is mistaken for a small island, leading sailors to unknowingly drop anchor on the beast itself only to realize their fatal mistake as it plunges back into the sea. While the Kraken is primarily a Scandinavian legend, similar sea monsters appear in various cultures around the world. Greek mythology. The Scylla and Charybdis myth describes two deadly sea monsters that attacked ships passing through the Strait of Messina. Scylla, a six-headed creature, would snatch sailors from their decks, while Charybdis created massive whirlpools. These creatures resemble some aspects of the Kraken legend. Japanese mythology. The Akuro-kamui, a massive octopus-like creature from Ainu folklore, is said to lurk in the waters around Japan, capable of capsizing boats and dragging fishermen into the sea. Pacific Islander legends. Many island cultures tell stories of colossal sea creatures, often described as guardians of the ocean or forces of chaos that must be appeased. Biblical and medieval legends. Some medieval European bestiaries describe sea serpents and leviathans, monstrous creatures that haunt the deep. The biblical Leviathan, a great sea beast mentioned in the Old Testament, has often been compared to Kraken-like myths. Scientific explanations. Was the Kraken real? While no true Kraken has ever been found, modern science suggests that these myths were likely inspired by real deep-sea creatures, particularly giant squids and colossal squids. These massive cephalopods can grow to lengths exceeding 40 feet, 12 meters, or more, with some estimates suggesting even larger specimens may exist. Giant squids are rarely seen by humans because they dwell in the deep ocean, far beyond the reach of traditional exploration. However, sperm whales, their natural predators, often surface with scars and sucker marks from intense underwater battles. These scars provide evidence that squid of enormous size exist, lurking in the darkness of the deep. In 2004, researchers captured the first ever live footage of a giant squid in its natural habitat, confirming that massive tentacled creatures do, in fact, exist. Since then, more footage and specimens have been studied, further fueling speculation that Kraken legends may have originated from encounters with these deep-sea monsters. The Kraken has remained one of the most iconic mythical creatures, appearing in literature, films, and art throughout history. Some of the most famous references include Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, 2006. This film popularized the Kraken as a massive tentacled beast used by Davy Jones to destroy ships. Clash of the Titans, 1981 and 2010. The phrase "release the Kraken" became legendary after the Kraken was depicted as a gigantic sea monster summoned by the gods. H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. While not a direct Kraken reference, Lovecraft's Cthulhu shares many similarities, an enormous, tentacled being lying dormant beneath the sea, waiting to rise again. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 1870. Jules Verne's novel features an encounter with a giant squid, reinforcing the idea of terrifying creatures dwelling in the abyss. The Kraken remains one of the most fearsome and fascinating mythical creatures, blurring the line between legend and reality. While it may not exist exactly as described in ancient tales, the possibility of undiscovered deep-sea creatures continues to intrigue scientists and adventurers alike. The vast ocean is still largely unexplored, and new species are discovered every year. Could there be a real-life Kraken lurking in the abyss, waiting to be found? Or is it simply a tale woven from the fears of sailors and the mysteries of the deep? Whatever the truth may be, the legend of the Kraken continues to captivate the human imagination, ensuring that this ancient sea monster will never truly sink into the depths of forgotten history. Trolls have long been a staple of Norse and Scandinavian folklore, depicted as large, powerful, and often dangerous creatures that lurk in the wilderness, far from human civilization. Sometimes they are terrifying giants that roam the mountains, while other times they are smaller, more mischievous beings that dwell deep in the forests, caves, or even under bridges. Their legends have endured for centuries, evolving from ancient myths into modern fantasy stories, where they continue to be portrayed as fearsome beasts, brutish warriors, or even comical tricksters. But where did the myth of the troll come from? And how did these creatures shape Scandinavian folklore and later fantasy literature? Let's explore the origins, cultural significance, and modern interpretations of trolls. The word troll comes from Old Norse and Old Swedish and originally had a broad meaning, referring to giants, supernatural beings, and sometimes even malevolent spirits or witches. Some of the earliest references to trolls come from Old Norse sagas and the Poetic Edda, which describe them as huge, monstrous beings, often in conflict with the gods and heroes of the Viking Age. Unlike other mythical creatures that were associated with gods or celestial beings, trolls were more closely connected to the earth, mountains, and forests. They were said to live in the most remote and uninhabited places, avoiding human contact whenever possible. Some legends suggest they were even afraid of sunlight, turning to stone if exposed to it, an idea that persisted in many later tales. As the troll myth evolved, different types of trolls emerged, each with their own distinct characteristics and roles in folklore. Jotnar, the giant trolls. In Norse mythology, trolls were often interchangeable with the Jotnar, the race of frost giants and nature spirits that frequently clashed with the gods of Asgard. These massive, primal beings were neither fully good nor entirely evil, they were simply forces of chaos, nature, and destruction. Some, like Ymir, were among the first beings to exist in the Norse creation myth, while others, such as Skrymir, challenged gods like Thor in legendary battles. The most famous trolls in Scandinavian folklore are the mountain trolls, often depicted as immensely large, slow-witted, and dangerous to humans. These trolls were said to live in caves deep within the mountains, emerging only at night to avoid turning to stone. Stories of massive rock formations scattered across Norway and Sweden were often explained as trolls that had been caught by the sunrise and petrified forever. Smaller than their mountain-dwelling cousins, forest trolls were often seen as more mischievous than purely destructive. These trolls were thought to inhabit deep forests and dark swamps, where they would trick travelers, steal livestock, or even swap human children for their own, a legend known as changeling folklore. Some were believed to live in underground burrows, only emerging to cause trouble before vanishing back into the shadows. One of the most enduring images of trolls in folklore is that of the bridge troll, a creature that lurks beneath bridges, demanding tolls from those who wish to cross. The most famous example of this trope comes from the Norwegian fairy tale The Three Billy Goats Gruff, where a troll living under a bridge tries to stop three goats from crossing. The idea of trolls guarding passageways or hidden places reinforces their role as keepers of the wild and untamed lands, lurking just beyond the reach of human civilization. Trolls are often depicted as strong but not particularly intelligent, easily tricked by clever humans or outwitted by their own foolishness. In some stories, trolls are not necessarily evil but simply indifferent or hostile toward humans, seeing them as intruders in their domain. Several key traits are common in troll folklore. They are nocturnal. Most troll legends claim that trolls cannot survive in daylight and will turn to stone if the sun touches them. This belief explains the presence of strange rock formations across Scandinavia, which were often said to be trolls caught by the morning sun. They live in remote places. Trolls avoid human settlements, preferring the solitude of mountains, forests, and underground caverns. They are incredibly strong. A single troll is often said to be as strong as many men, able to tear trees from the ground or crush boulders with ease. They dislike loud noises and iron. Some legends say trolls fear the sound of church bells or the ringing of iron weapons, which can drive them away. Trolls in other cultures. Though trolls are most commonly associated with Scandinavian folklore, similar creatures appear in myths and legends across the world. British folklore. Creatures similar to trolls appear in Celtic and British myths, where giants and ogres often inhabit remote regions. Some share traits with bridge trolls, demanding tolls or riddles from travelers. Slavic mythology. The Leshy, a Slavic forest spirit, is somewhat similar to trolls, guarding the wilderness and tricking travelers who disrespect the land. Germanic myths. Dwarfs in Norse and Germanic mythology share some similarities with trolls, though they are usually depicted as smaller, intelligent, and skilled craftsmen rather than brutish creatures. Trolls in modern culture. Like dragons, trolls have remained popular in modern fantasy, literature, and gaming. Their appearance and personality vary greatly depending on the story, sometimes retaining their traditional monstrous forms, while other times being portrayed as more humorous or even sympathetic characters. Tolkien introduced trolls in The Hobbit, where they are depicted as large, dim-witted creatures who turn to stone in the sunlight. This follows traditional Norse folklore. Harry Potter series, 1997 to 2007, trolls in Harry Potter are gigantic and brutish, often used as guards or creatures of destruction. One appears in the Sorcerer's Stone, causing chaos at Hogwarts. The Elder Scrolls and other fantasy games, trolls are frequently featured in video games like Skyrim and The Witcher, where they are powerful creatures found in caves or forests. Frozen, 2013, Disney's Frozen presents trolls as small, magical creatures, completely different from their traditional monstrous depictions. Are trolls real? Unlike creatures such as the Kraken, which have possible scientific explanations, trolls are widely considered to be purely mythical. However, their legends may have been inspired by ancient fears of the wilderness. The deep forests, mountains, and caves of Scandinavia could be dangerous places, filled with unknown creatures, making trolls a convenient explanation for the mysterious sounds, shadows, and strange rock formations found in these remote areas. While science may dismiss trolls as folklore, their presence in Scandinavian culture remains strong. Statues of trolls can be found throughout Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, and their influence is still felt in literature, art, and popular culture. Trolls have captured the imagination for centuries, evolving from terrifying mountain giants to mischievous tricksters and even beloved fantasy characters. Whether they are feared as monstrous beasts of the wilderness or enjoyed as friendly legends of Nordic culture, trolls remain an enduring part of mythology and storytelling. Even today, deep in the mountains and forests of Scandinavia, where the mist rolls over ancient rocks and the trees creak in the wind, some might still wonder, are trolls really just a myth? The phoenix is one of the most enduring and mystical creatures in mythology, a bird that symbolizes rebirth, immortality, and renewal. Said to be born from its own ashes, the phoenix represents the cycle of life, death, and resurrection, appearing in legends across many cultures throughout history. Unlike other mythical creatures that are feared or worshipped for their power, the phoenix is almost always seen as a symbol of hope, transformation, and enlightenment. Its story has evolved over thousands of years, shaping religious beliefs, literature, and art, with its fiery nature representing both destruction and creation. But where did the legend of the phoenix originate? And how has it endured for so long? Let's explore the origins, cultural significance, and modern interpretations of this legendary firebird. The oldest references to the phoenix come from ancient Egypt, Greece, and the Middle East, but similar stories appear in cultures across the world. The phoenix is typically described as a large, magnificent bird, covered in brilliant red, orange, and gold feathers, resembling the flames that surround it. It is said to live for hundreds or even thousands of years, and when its time comes, it builds a nest, sets itself on fire, and is reborn from its own ashes. The Egyptians believed in a sacred firebird called the Bennu, which was associated with the sun god Ra and the cycles of time. The Greeks and Romans took inspiration from the Bennu, incorporating it into their own mythology as the phoenix, a divine bird linked to the sun and cosmic order. In Persian and Hindu mythology, similar birds appear, reinforcing the idea of a powerful, immortal creature that transcends death itself. Many civilizations have their own version of the phoenix, often representing immortality, resurrection, and celestial power. Egyptian mythology, the Bennu. The Bennu bird is one of the oldest representations of the phoenix, appearing in Egyptian mythology as a divine, heron-like bird linked to the cycle of life and the sun god Ra. It was believed to be a self-created being, playing a key role in the creation of the world. According to legend, the Bennu would fly over the Nile, bringing new life to the land and ensuring the balance of existence. Greek and Roman mythology, the classic phoenix. In Greek and Roman traditions, the phoenix is a golden red bird that lives for 500 to 1,000 years before dying in flames and rising again from the ashes. The philosopher Herodotus wrote about the phoenix, describing it as a bird that would carry the ashes of its predecessor to the temple of the sun god in Heliopolis, Egypt. The phoenix became a symbol of renewal, eternity, and divine connection, influencing later religious and philosophical thought. Chinese mythology, the Feng Huang. The Feng Huang is often called the Chinese phoenix, though it differs from the Western version. Instead of representing destruction and rebirth, the Feng Huang is a symbol of peace, harmony, and virtue, associated with the empress and feminine energy. Unlike the firebird of European legends, the Feng Huang is not reborn from ashes but is said to live eternally as a celestial being, ruling over all birds. Persian mythology, the Simar. The Simar is a legendary bird from Persian, Iranian, mythology, often compared to the phoenix. It is depicted as a massive, wise bird with healing powers, capable of purifying water and granting wisdom to those it aids. Unlike the phoenix, the Simar is not destroyed by fire but is a benevolent, eternal guardian of the world. Hindu mythology, the Garuda. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, the Garuda is a powerful bird-like creature, serving as the mount of the god Vishnu. Though not a phoenix in the traditional sense, Garuda embodies immortality and celestial power, often depicted carrying the elixir of eternal life. The most defining trait of the phoenix is its cycle of rebirth, a theme that has appeared throughout history in various religious, spiritual, and literary traditions. In Christianity, the phoenix became an early symbol of Christ's resurrection, representing victory over death and the promise of eternal life. In alchemy, the phoenix is seen as a symbol of transformation and purification, linked to the philosopher's stone and the pursuit of immortality. In medieval Europe, it was used as an emblem of nobility and resilience, appearing on coats of arms and royal banners. The phoenix in literature and popular culture. The phoenix has remained a beloved and powerful symbol in modern culture, appearing in literature, films, and fantasy worlds. Some of the most famous examples include: the phoenix plays a major role in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, with Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, embodying themes of loyalty, healing, and rebirth. The Chronicles of Narnia, 1950 to 1956, C.S. Lewis incorporates the phoenix as a symbol of resurrection and transformation. Jean Grey in X-Men, Marvel Comics, the Phoenix Force, one of the most powerful cosmic entities in the Marvel Universe, draws inspiration from the myth, granting incredible power and the ability to be reborn. Final Fantasy and other games. Many role-playing games include the phoenix as a summonable creature, often associated with reviving fallen allies and casting fire-based attacks. The Hunger Games, 2008 to 2010, the idea of a mockingjay rising from the ashes draws parallels to the phoenix, symbolizing resilience and rebirth. Scientific explanations. Could the phoenix be real? Unlike creatures like the kraken or the dragon, the phoenix is purely a symbolic creature, rather than a cryptid based on real animals. However, some historians speculate that the legend of the phoenix could have been inspired by exotic birds, such as Flamingos, found in Egypt and other regions, their red and gold plumage could have contributed to the myth of a fiery bird. Peacocks, their majestic feathers and long lifespan made them a symbol of eternity in some ancient cultures. Cranes or herons, the Bennu bird in Egyptian mythology closely resembles a heron, a bird often linked to rebirth and the afterlife. Final thoughts: the eternal firebird. The phoenix has stood the test of time, continuing to inspire stories, legends, and works of art. More than just a mythological creature, it represents hope, renewal, and the power of transformation. Whether in ancient myths, medieval symbolism, or modern storytelling, the image of the phoenix rising from the ashes remains one of the most powerful and enduring legends of all time. Perhaps that is the true power of the phoenix, not just its immortality, but its ability to ignite the imagination and inspire humanity to rise from the ashes, no matter the challenge. The basilisk is one of the most feared creatures in European folklore, often described as a serpent-like monster with a deadly gaze capable of turning people to stone. Dubbed the king of serpents, the basilisk has long been associated with death, destruction, and the ability to kill with a single look or breath. Unlike other mythical creatures that exist in many different cultural traditions, the basilisk is primarily a European legend, with its origins deeply tied to medieval bestiaries, alchemical symbolism, and early natural history writings. But what inspired this terrifying creature? And could there be any real-world explanations behind the legend? Let's explore the history, myths, and lasting impact of the basilisk. The basilisk legend dates back to ancient Greece and Rome, with its first written mention attributed to Pliny the Elder, a Roman naturalist and historian, in his famous work Naturalis Historia, Natural History, from the 1st century AD. Pliny described the basilisk as a deadly serpent from North Africa, so venomous that its mere breath could kill plants, crack stones, and even slay birds flying overhead. Later medieval bestiaries expanded on the legend, giving the basilisk its most famous attribute, the ability to kill with a single glance. As the centuries passed, the basilisk evolved in mythology, becoming a creature of alchemical and symbolic significance, often linked to dark magic, death, and corruption. How was a basilisk created? Unlike natural-born creatures, the basilisk was believed to come into existence in an unnatural, almost cursed way. Medieval texts claimed that a basilisk was born from an egg laid by a serpent or a toad, but only if the egg was incubated by a rooster instead of a hen. This bizarre origin story reinforced the idea that the basilisk was a creature against the laws of nature, an abomination that should not exist. Some variations of the legend even claim that eclipses or astrological events played a role in the basilisk's birth, linking it to omens of disaster and dark forces. A deathly gaze. The most famous trait of the basilisk is its lethal stare. According to legend, anyone who meets its eyes is instantly turned to stone. This aspect of the myth has led to comparisons with Medusa from Greek mythology, whose petrifying gaze shares similarities with the basilisk's power. A poisonous breath. In some versions of the myth, the basilisk does not just rely on its gaze, it can also breathe out toxic fumes that kill plants, animals, and even cause water sources to become undrinkable. A body covered in venom. Some tales describe the basilisk's entire body as being coated in deadly poison, making it impossible to kill without suffering instant death from touching it. A fear of roosters. Interestingly, the basilisk, despite its overwhelming power, was said to have one major weakness: the crowing of a rooster. According to folklore, if a rooster crowed near a basilisk, the creature would die instantly. This detail led to roosters being used as a form of protection against the basilisk in medieval times. While the basilisk is most famous in European mythology, similar creatures appear in various cultures worldwide. Greek and Roman mythology. Early versions of the basilisk resembled a giant snake with deadly venom, often confused with another legendary serpent, the amphispina, a snake with two heads, one on each end of its body. Slavic folklore. Slavic legends tell of a monstrous serpent called the Warel dragon, which shares similarities with the basilisk. In Poland, the legend of the Basilisk of Krakow tells of a deadly creature hiding in underground tunnels beneath the city. Jewish folklore. Some Jewish myths mention a cockatrice, a similar creature to the basilisk, which was hatched from a cursed egg and could kill with a single glance. Real-life explanations. Was the basilisk based on a real creature? Although the basilisk is considered a myth, historians, and naturalists have speculated that the legend may have been inspired by real animals that were misunderstood or exaggerated in ancient times. Some possible explanations include the king cobra. The basilisk's title as the king of serpents may have been inspired by the real king cobra, a snake that can raise its upper body and stand while spreading its hood. The king cobra is highly venomous and could have been mistaken for a supernatural creature by early explorers. The Egyptian cobra and the spitting cobra. Some species of cobras can spit venom, potentially blinding their prey. This ability could have been misinterpreted as a lethal gaze by ancient historians. The Gila monster. This venomous lizard found in the Americas has a slow, lumbering movement and was once feared for its supposed deadly bite. Though not from Europe, early explorers might have exaggerated similar creatures they encountered. Fossil discoveries. Some scholars believe that early fossils of dinosaurs or other prehistoric reptiles may have inspired stories of monstrous serpents in medieval times. Finding the skeleton of a large, unknown reptile could easily lead to speculation about terrifying beasts. During the Middle Ages, the basilisk became more than just a creature of legend. It took on deep symbolic meaning in alchemy and medieval philosophy. Alchemy. The basilisk was associated with powerful, dangerous transformation. Some believed that distilling a basilisk's essence could create the philosopher's stone, an object capable of granting immortality. Christian symbolism. The basilisk was sometimes used as a representation of Satan, a creature that brings death and corruption, but one that could be defeated through divine means. Royal and noble heraldry. Some medieval coats of arms featured the basilisk as a symbol of strength, fearlessness, and dominance over enemies. The basilisk in modern culture. Like many mythical creatures, the basilisk has found a new home in modern literature, films, and games. Some of the most famous appearances include Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, 1998. One of the most famous modern depictions of a basilisk appears in Harry Potter, where a giant serpent lives beneath Hogwarts, killing its victims with a single stare. It is ultimately defeated by Fawkes the Phoenix, whose tears have healing properties. The Witcher series. In the Witcher books and video games, basilisks are dangerous reptilian creatures, though they are not as powerful as their legendary counterparts. Dungeons and Dragons. In D&D, the basilisk is a multi-legged, scaly beast that petrifies its victims, much like in ancient myths. Dark Souls and Elden Ring. These games feature giant, fog-breathing creatures called basilisks that curse players, simulating the deadly gaze from folklore. Final thoughts. A creature of fear and legend. The basilisk has remained one of the most feared and fascinating creatures in mythology, evolving from a deadly serpent king of the ancient world to a symbol of dark magic and power in medieval times. But whether it was inspired by real-life snakes, exaggerated explorer tales, or simple superstition, the legend of the basilisk continues to endure in literature, gaming, and popular culture. Even though we no longer fear deadly glances from mythical beasts, the mystery of the basilisk still lingers, reminding us of a time when the world was filled with unexplored dangers and monsters lurked in the shadows, waiting to be discovered. The Loch Ness Monster, often referred to as Nessie, is one of the most famous cryptids in the world, a mysterious aquatic creature said to inhabit Loch Ness, a deep freshwater lake in the Scottish Highlands. Sightings of Nessie have captivated imaginations for centuries, sparking debates over whether the legend is based on myth, mistaken identity, or a real, undiscovered species. Unlike dragons or basilisks, the Loch Ness Monster is a modern mystery, one that continues to intrigue researchers, cryptozoologists, and enthusiasts alike. Is Nessie a relic from the prehistoric era, a misidentified creature, or simply a legend born from folklore and hoaxes? Let's explore the origins, sightings, scientific theories, and cultural impact of the Loch Ness Monster. The earliest recorded mention of a mysterious water beast in Loch Ness dates back to 565 AD, in the life of Saint Columba, a biography of the Irish missionary who spread Christianity in Scotland. According to the text, Saint Columba encountered a water beast in the River Ness, which was attacking a swimmer. Columba commanded the creature to leave in the name of God, and it retreated, sparking one of the first written accounts of a strange aquatic being in the region. While this story has religious overtones, similar tales of lake monsters and water spirits are common in Celtic mythology. The Scottish Highlands have long been home to stories of water-dwelling creatures, such as the Kelpie, a shape-shifting spirit that often appears as a black horse and drowns those who try to ride it. Some historians believe that Nessie's legend is an evolution of these older myths, blending local folklore with later sightings. The modern Loch Ness Monster phenomenon began in the 1930s, when a series of high-profile sightings turned local folklore into a global mystery. The 1933 sightings. In April 1933, a couple named John and Aldie Mackay claimed to have seen a large creature rolling and diving in the waters of Loch Ness. This sighting was widely publicized, leading to increased curiosity about the mystery of Loch Ness. That same year, a motorist named George Spicer reported seeing a large, long-necked creature crossing the road near the loch, describing it as a dragon or prehistoric reptile. The 1934 surgeon's photograph. Perhaps the most famous image of Nessie, the surgeon's photograph, was published in 1934. Taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson, a London physician, the black and white photo appears to show a long neck rising from the lake. For decades, it was considered the best evidence of Nessie's existence, until 1994, when it was revealed to be a hoax, created using a small toy submarine with a fake head attached. The Dinsdale film, 1960. In 1960, aeronautical engineer Tim Dinsdale filmed what he believed was a large, living creature moving through the loch. The footage, though blurry, shows a dark hump-like shape moving across the water. Some experts dismissed it as a boat wake, while others claimed it was evidence of an unknown creature. Modern sightings and sonar evidence. Sonar scans conducted in 1954, 1972, 1987, and 2003 have detected unidentified objects and movements deep within Loch Ness, but no definitive proof of a large creature has ever been found. In 2018, a global DNA study of Loch Ness's waters found no evidence of large unknown animals, but did detect a significant amount of eel DNA, leading some to theorize that giant eels could be the real monster. What could Nessie be? Scientific theories. While the romantic idea of a prehistoric monster surviving in Loch Ness is exciting, scientists have proposed several alternative explanations for what people might actually be seeing. One of the most popular theories suggests that Nessie could be a plesiosaur, a marine reptile from the Jurassic period. Plesiosaurs had long necks and large bodies, matching some descriptions of Nessie. However, plesiosaurs were believed to be ocean dwellers, not lake creatures, and they went extinct around 66 million years ago. Additionally, Loch Ness was formed only about 10,000 years ago, making it unlikely that a population of plesiosaurs could have survived there unnoticed. Giant eels. Some researchers believe Nessie sightings may actually be giant European eels. Eels are known to inhabit Loch Ness, and they can grow surprisingly large. If an eel surfaced in a way that made its body look like a long neck, it could explain some of the reported sightings. Seismic activity and optical illusions. Some sightings may be caused by underwater disturbances, waves, or optical illusions. Loch Ness is a deep, murky body of water with unique geological activity, including occasional tremors that can create strange wave patterns. These conditions could trick the eye into seeing movement or shapes that aren't really there. Logs, debris, and animal misidentifications. Large fish, floating logs, or even otters swimming in a line could account for many Nessie reports. Some photographs believed to be Nessie have later been identified as decomposing animals, birds, or waves distorted by perspective. The cultural impact of the Loch Ness Monster. Despite the lack of definitive proof, Nessie remains one of the most beloved and enduring cryptids, attracting thousands of tourists to Loch Ness every year. The Loch Ness Monster has become a global icon, inspiring movies, books, and scientific expeditions. The Scottish tourism industry thrives on Nessie, with local businesses selling Nessie-themed merchandise, boat tours, and museum exhibits dedicated to the mystery. Cryptozoologists continue to search for evidence, using sonar technology, underwater drones, and DNA testing, though the results remain inconclusive. Famous Nessie appearances in modern media include The Water Horse, Legend of the Deep, 2007, a family-friendly film based on the idea that Nessie is a benevolent, magical creature. Scooby-Doo and the Loch Ness Monster, 2004, a fun take on the legend, featuring the Mystery Incorporated gang investigating the Loch Ness Monster. Doctor Who and the X-Files, Both series have featured Loch Ness-themed episodes, exploring the idea of Nessie as a creature from another world. Final thoughts: mystery or myth? The Loch Ness Monster remains one of the greatest mysteries of modern times. Unlike many legendary creatures that exist purely in ancient mythology, Nessie is a living mystery, one that continues to spark new investigations, theories, and debates. While no concrete evidence has ever been found, the legend of Nessie is unlikely to disappear anytime soon. As long as Loch Ness continues to shroud its depths in mystery, there will always be those who believe that something lurks beneath the waves, waiting to be discovered. After all, the world's oceans and lakes remain largely unexplored, and who's to say what secrets still lie hidden in the dark waters of Loch Ness? The unicorn is one of the most beloved and enduring mythical creatures, symbolizing purity, grace, and mystery across many cultures and centuries. Often depicted as a majestic white horse with a single spiraled horn, the unicorn has fascinated people for millennia, appearing in ancient myths, medieval bestiaries, religious texts, and modern fantasy stories. Unlike many other mythical beasts, the unicorn is not seen as a monster or a threat, but rather as a rare, magical creature with extraordinary abilities, often associated with healing, divine power, and untamed freedom. But where did this legendary animal originate, and why has it remained so deeply rooted in the human imagination? Let's explore the history, symbolism, sightings, and modern influence of the unicorn. The idea of a horse-like creature with a single horn dates back thousands of years, with some of the earliest mentions of unicorn-like beings appearing in ancient Mesopotamian, Greek, Indian, and Chinese texts. The Indus Valley Civilization, circa 2000 BCE. Ancient seals discovered in modern-day Pakistan and India depict a one-horned animal, which some scholars believe could be an early representation of a unicorn. Greek accounts, 4th century BCE. The Greek historian Ctesias wrote about a wild beast from India resembling a white horse with a long horn on its forehead. He described it as fierce, fast, and impossible to capture alive. Chinese mythology. The Qilin, often called the Chinese unicorn, is a legendary creature associated with wisdom and good fortune. Unlike the Western unicorn, the Qilin has dragon-like features, including scales and flames. Biblical references. Some early translations of the Bible mention a one-horned creature called a riem, later interpreted as a unicorn. Medieval scholars believed these passages proved unicorns were real creatures. These early descriptions and artistic depictions helped shape the European medieval image of the unicorn as a mystical, horse-like being. During the Middle Ages, unicorns became an important symbol in Christian mythology, often representing purity, divine power, and Christ himself. Sacred and elusive, medieval bestiaries described the unicorn as a wild and untamable animal that could only be captured by a virgin maiden, reinforcing the idea of the unicorn as a symbol of purity. Healing powers. The unicorn's horn, called an uli corn, was believed to have miraculous healing properties, including the ability to purify water, cure disease, and neutralize poison. Royal and noble symbolism. Unicorns were featured in heraldry and coats of arms, most famously in Scotland, where the unicorn became a national symbol of strength and independence. The idea that unicorn horns had magical properties led to the trade of alicorns throughout medieval Europe. These were often narwhal tusks, mistaken for real unicorn horns, and were sold for enormous sums as medicinal ingredients or royal treasures. While the European unicorn is the most famous version, similar one-horned creatures exist in legends around the world. The Qilin, China, Japan, and Korea. The Qilin is a mythical beast of wisdom and prosperity, often depicted with a deer-like body, dragon scales, and a single horn. Unlike the Western unicorn, the Qilin is not a wild animal but a divine messenger, appearing during the reign of wise rulers. The Shadavar, Persian mythology. The Shadavar is a one-horned antelope-like creature with a horn that produces beautiful music when the wind blows through it. Unlike the gentle unicorn, the Shadavar was sometimes considered a dangerous trickster, luring people to their deaths with its haunting melodies. The Karkadan, Middle Eastern mythology. Described as a powerful and aggressive one-horned beast, the Karkadan was believed to roam the deserts of Persia and India. Unlike the noble European unicorn, it was said to be ferocious and untamable, feared by both humans and animals. The Camagüey, South American mythology. a one-horned, bull-like creature from Chilean folklore, said to have healing properties similar to the unicorn. Its horn was highly sought after for medicinal purposes, believed to cure illness and strengthen the body. These regional variations show that the unicorn is a near-universal symbol, though its nature and personality vary depending on the culture. Could unicorns have been real? While unicorns are considered mythical, some scholars believe the legend may have been inspired by real animals, misidentified by early travelers. Some possible explanations include the narwhal. Medieval Europeans were unfamiliar with narwhals, whales with long, spiraled tusks found in Arctic waters. Their tusks were often sold as unicorn horns, leading many to believe unicorns were real. The Indian rhinoceros. Ancient Greek and Roman travelers described strange, one-horned creatures from India, which may have been early encounters with the Indian rhinoceros. Their descriptions were exaggerated over time, turning the bulky rhino into a majestic, horse-like unicorn. Prehistoric fossils. Fossils of Elasmotherium, a prehistoric species of giant rhinoceros, suggest that real one-horned creatures did exist in ancient times. Some believe early humans found these fossils and mistook them for proof of unicorns. While none of these animals perfectly match the traditional unicorn, they could have contributed to the myth's evolution. Unicorns remain one of the most popular mythical creatures, appearing in literature, films, and pop culture. Some of their most famous appearances include The Last Unicorn, 1968 novel and 1982 film, a beloved fantasy story about the last unicorn searching for her lost kin. Harry Potter series, 1997 to 2007. Unicorns are portrayed as mystical and pure creatures, whose blood can grant immortality at a terrible cost. My Little Pony, a modern take on unicorns as friendly, magical beings, appealing to children and fantasy lovers. The unicorn emoji and internet culture. Unicorns are now widely used as a symbol of magic, uniqueness, and fantasy, often appearing in memes, art, and branding. From majestic beings of divine purity to whimsical fantasy icons, unicorns have transformed over time but never lost their place in our imaginations. Final thoughts. A myth that endures. The unicorn remains one of the most enduring mythical creatures, representing magic, beauty, and the impossible made real. While science may have disproved their existence, their symbolism and cultural significance remain as strong as ever. From ancient religious texts to modern fantasy novels, unicorns have always been a symbol of dreams, wonder, and the extraordinary. Whether as noble creatures of legend or fun, colorful figures in pop culture, they continue to captivate and inspire, proof that some myths never truly fade away. And so, our journey through the world of mythical creatures comes to an end, for now. From the depths of the ocean to the highest mountain peaks, from ancient legends to modern-day mysteries, these creatures have captured human imagination for centuries. Whether as symbols of power, wisdom, fear, or wonder, they remind us of a time when the world was vast and unexplored, filled with untold secrets waiting to be discovered. But myths never truly fade away. As long as we continue to tell their stories, they live on, shape-shifting, evolving, and finding new places in our culture and minds. Who knows what other mysteries are still waiting to be uncovered? Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed exploring these legendary beings, make sure to like and subscribe.